My name is Bernard Parsons, if you don't know who I am. And I have my company called Studio Parsons. And what I do is basically I'm a graphic designer and UI designer, a mix of all trades, and also do multimedia and some special effects. But one of the videos that I wanted to kind of touch base on is character design and also how to get into character design. As you can see here, I have a character already kind of sketched out, um, and I don't want to make the video too long. I just because the technique that I'm going to be showing you on how to uh, design a character and bring it into Photoshop and colorize it actually is not a very long process. It's a few steps. What really does take long is actually cleaning up your drawing here a bit. Now, how do you go about doing a character design? Well, first of all, you kind of need a little bit of skill in drawing, a little bit of imagination. But I kind of cheat a little bit sometimes, and what do I mean by cheating is, well, if you look at the character that I have here, you could tell that the muscle tone and all some of the features on the character are kind of like representing like the human form, and some people. Well, I can do it myself, but some people have the ability to actually draw muscular forms of the human body very well, only because they've done it over a numerous amount of time and are very skilled at doing it. Not saying that I don't, but sometimes to sit there and draw a human character um, kind of becomes irrelevant when you're just doing concept. Now, this is just for concept design, and the first step that I would kind of tell anybody if you want to start is to just go to your Google and just type in human uh, illustration. We'll see if that brings up something. Um, and you would basically look for something that would help you guide you in the process. Now you see here we have a drawing of a female. You can search. I'm going to show you what I used. I'm just going to basically open up here if I can, if I have it. It should be in my graphics. These are some other projects. Game title images. No. Okay, yeah, these are just some projects because I'm doing some other things. But like here, even for this one, for example, it's a 3D model, and it's a well representation of a human body. So I would start by looking for something, even something like this. You can simply just take a copy of a good image that's large enough, bring it into your Photoshop. I'm just trying to see if I can find something really quickly here that can help. Well, maybe we'll just do another different search. 3D human body. Okay, so here we have something a little bit more better. Here is a perfect example. Now, we have somebody that already had modeled this character, but usually even when they model this character, they're using some sort of illustration to guide them. So I would just basically copy this image, bring it into Photoshop, and I would just simply copy this here, and I would just also create a new page that would be 8.5 by 11, which is regular standard size, and paste it in here. And as we can see, it's a little large. So these are just like setups to help you if you're not a an artist or very good at drawing. This is kind of like a way of cheating your way out of it and getting you started. so that you can allow yourself to do some of the designing process. So now what I would normally do is I would print out this, and then with another sheet of paper, and then yes, I would be using paper, to kind of just draw out around the edge of this humanoid body, trying to include some of the muscle tone with the pencil. And then once I would have a copy of this, let me see if I can, I would have something maybe, we'll just desaturate. So it would probably be something like, it would be black and white, and I would have a simple outline of the human body, and then I would work from there. So then you would take the paper, or the drawing that you would have, and then you would sit down and you would start slowly drawing out parts of the body, keeping in mind some of the muscle tone, just so that you can kind of give definition to your character. And simply, this is what I did with this one. I had a drawing of a standard humanoid body that I would use for my 3D modeling, and I would draw a simple outline, and then I would go in and and just draw on top of it. Now sometimes your first try will not always work. Sometimes having an imagination and figuring out, well, where you're going to start can always be the hardest part. So once you have your concept done, then basically is just what I did was, after I had done in pencil, I would use a black felt or a black tip pen, and go in and retrace everything. Now, this has been scanned at 300 dpi, and you can see that there are still a lot of rough edges around. And what you kind of want to do, first of all, is to make sure that your white and your black are, pure white and pure black. One way of going in and fixing this is like this is the original drawing, and I'm kind of going in and cleaning it up, because I plan on adding these little slight features, and the effects of some glistening off the metal body, or the material itself, to give it that shimmer, myself, using some effects and some layers. So I kind of clean it up, but what you want to do is go into your adjustment tools, and either you can select your brightness. I like to use levels, because levels are more accurate. For me, it's because it will adjust the whites and the blacks more accurately. So I could crank this up a bit, and I could really make it black, or I can lighten it up a bit more. But let's zoom in. I'm going to see the difference here. Okay, come on. Select. No, that's not what I want. Okay. For some reason, my grab tool, or my hand wasn't working. So we're just going to go back here. And we'll go back to adjustment layer, and we'll go back to levels. So you have to be very careful that you don't crank the levels too much, because you could get some distortion, and then you can end up getting, as you can see, if you look along the edges. Okay, so it just seemed like I just stopped my video recording when I tried to use Task Manager here to quit Skype. So as you can see, if I zoom in just a little bit more here, and start playing around with it, you'll start seeing that you'll start getting some weird anti-aliasing, and then you start getting some weird color artifacts happening here on the side. So be very careful when you're playing around with that, but your main goal is to get your scan background, or the white part, to be white, because it'll come out like an off yellowish, or an egg white color, and which when we start doing the process of separating the outline or the drawing here, we want to make sure that we're dealing with pure white and pure black. Now, secondly, also, you're going to also want to take a look around and make sure that you don't see any floating pieces like we see here that would maybe cause some issues. Now, we don't really have to worry about it, because what we're going to do is we're going to be creating an outline of the black, and using using the vector feature in paths. Now, if we accidentally create like little pieces of the some leftover black that might be floating around, we can just easily delete those. But we're trying to make sure that we clean it up. Also, what's going to take you a little bit of time, and this is something that I'm going to do and then just come right back quickly, is you're going to want to try and clean up some features like this, just so that when we do use the create path tool, it's going to look a little bit more cleaner. Now, for this purpose, we're not really going to care, because actually some of the results do come out very well. But for all intents and purposes, if you want a really good path created, having all of this cleaned up as best as possible is the route to go. And you also want to make sure that any of the white that's in between here becomes black, and clean it all up. And also, like I said, just come in here and clean up any of the edges that you feel that would need to be done. And after this, I'm going to show you how to separate your drawing by creating a path, a workable path, and then we're going to use that path, which is going to allow us to have a better, cleaner edge, and we're going to fill it in, and then we're going to start colorizing our character and adding some nice shading effects and everything into it. So be right back. Alright, so I did a little bit of time here cleaning up most of this, as you can see. Now I might have missed a little spot here and there, as I just noticed. I'm just going to go in and fill this up, and just kind of clean this little piece here a little bit. But as you can see, I don't really need to do too much. I was just being very picky to get most of the stuff done. But all the little spots and stuff like that, we can just leave that alone. Well, I'm filling them in right now. And just this little line here and here. Okay, just a little bit. Alright, so, sorry about that. See, I always end up missing a few little nooks and crannies along the way that could use a little attention. Alrighty. And I think this would be pretty much it for the most part. Yeah, we'll leave it. We'll leave this anyway. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. So we have our character here. Now what we want to do is separate all the black and use just the drawing itself, the black drawing, to start coloring it. So to start doing that, we need to go over to our paths. Now, what we want to do is we want a path to be created around the black only. So once we have a path created, we can use the fill tool that's going to fill in the black drawing, and leaving the rest of it with a transparency, which we're going to fill in afterwards. So we're just going to go to new path, and we'll just say character outline, and we'll just say black. Okay, So now what we have to do is, in order to get that, we have to go into our channels. Now, now there's no path created yet, but there is a layer here for it. But what we have to do is we need to select just the black, and then we're going to create a work path. So by doing so, you can actually go into any one of these by holding control and then just clicking on one of the channels. Now if we were actually had color like RBG, red, green, and blue, then of course it would probably most likely select just those colors. But because we only have black and white, well, it's only selecting just the black, because white would be considered, well, I think it's selecting the white because black would be considered transparent, or vice versa. I can't remember. But what we need to do is, though, we need to invert this. I know that for a fact. So inverting this, we hold down Control Shift and hit I, which is now going to invert it. And then we're going to go to the paths, and then we're going to say make work path. Now here, by default, it's at 0.05. Actually, this is pretty good. If you go any lower, you're not going to get so much curves, but you can play around it. You can actually get some unique results, but I always stick around with 0.5, and you just click OK. Now we have our work path. Actually, I guess I didn't really need to create this one here, so we can just delete this one. Now, what we use this one for is, we'll just go back to layers, and we can just create a new layer and fill it in white. With our work path, we just basically are going to select, hold down, sorry, if I had any select, hold down your control again, and select the work path. And as you can see, we have an outline here. It's forming most of the black. So to fill it in, you can hit your X to switch back from white or black. I'm going to choose black, and holding down your Alt and backspace key, we're going to fill it in like so. And if we go in, the good thing about this is that it's a little bit cleaner. We still see some little bit of pixelation around the edges, but that could be because our work path, when we create, oh, wait a minute, it could have been because we had another layer behind it, but it came out a little bit better. Actually, let me see what we have here. Oh, this is why. So we're just going to delete this. We don't really need the layer with the white. We wanted it with transparency, sorry. So we'll just do this. Could not fill because I'm not in a layer. Alright, and we'll do it again. And then we deselect, and here we have our black. So that would be the steps on doing it. Now if we just go back in and I just create another layer here, but I'm going to go back to my original, and this just to play around with it. So if I select any one of the layers again by holding down my control key and hitting one of the channels, I'm going to go into because I'm not into path, going to path, we're going to do a make work path. Let's try something a little higher, shall we? Let's do 9. Okay, and what that does is it's going to increase the number of points in the work path, and I think it actually replaced the one that we had previously. But if we just select this and then go back here, and we just delete and select this and fill it. Oh, let's see, we didn't invert it. So there we go. So I think what happened was that the higher the number the less smoother it was. Again, it's something that you have to play around with, but as you can see, it kind of gives like a unique effect to the overall outline. It kind of gives it like an artistic kind of drawing brush feel. Now if we went even lower, let's try this for the fun of it, and we go back to our layer and we select our layer, just control again on the channel, and we go into work path or into path, and we make a work path. Let's go down to 0, 5. See what happens. Number between 0.05 and 10 is required. Okay, so we can't go down any lower. So what happens if we go to say 20? It seems between 5 and 10 is the maximum. Aha, so here we see, so if I click here, and we go here, so it seems higher the number, the less number of points are presented to us. So I'm going to make sure that we invert it, Alt Fill, and we just zoom out on select. So the result is higher the number, the more smoother it is, but then we start losing our resolution of our outline of our character. So this is where, you know, it's on a matter of taste. If you want it like this, but perhaps, you know, you play with it a little bit, you're going to get the right value that's going to give you the proper smoothness. So let's try one more time. Actually, I'm just going to deselect here. We'll go back into channels, choose any one of the colors, go back to path. So if 10 is the highest and we were trying at 0.9, let's do it at 5 in between. So make work path. We'll just go to 5. Maybe this will be a little bit better for us. Could be. Don't forget to invert. Control Shift I, and then using Alt and backspace, you're going to fill it in, and let's just hide it here. Okay, so it came out a little bit better. Again, it's a matter of playing with some of the values, and I kind of like this one, to be honest with you. I like the kind of sharp round edges that it's kind of giving. It's very smooth and sleek, except for some of the the situation that we have here in the neck, but this part with the eyes and the neck and all that I'm going to most likely do something else. But I like the art style of this because, like I said, it kind of gives you that art brush stroke feel, using a different style of pen. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to create another layer here and make it our white background, and always remember to save. So here we have our character, and it has full transparency for the white. So how would you go about start coloring this? Well, we could just start painting it in and whatnot, but what I like to do first is, if it will allow me to, because I see some areas here where I am cutting it kind of thin, I like to do one complete layer fill of the entire character, just so that I can have something to base on for the shape, so that I can later come in and use it as a stencil to apply maybe another layer outline of it with some texture effects on it or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select my brush by hitting the wand, sorry, and let me just hide the history, and I'm going to select the outside. Wrong. Alright, and from what I can see, it's like what I always suspect. It was actually cutting through here. I'm going to have to thicken up this line a bit. Just checking where else. Everywhere else seems to be okay. Okay. Alrighty. So I'm going to deselect, and I'm just going to come into here, and I'm just going to kind of add a thin line. So right now my line is set to shape. You want to set it to pixels, and you want to make sure at least it's at 1. And then just use your line tool, kind of come in like so, just to thicken up that line. Nothing special, just so that when you use the wand tool, it's not going to go directly through the line and not work the way we want it to. And I'm just going to do it a couple of spots here just to make sure that we don't have the same issue. Alright, looks kind of good. Just going to check around. Everything else should be okay. There might be an issue here. Like so. There we go. Double checking. Just in case. I'm going to go here. And maybe another spot here. Definitely another spot here. Okay. And that would be it. So we'll zoom back out, select our W tool for our wand, and then what we're going to do is we're going to select the outside, and then we're going to invert it again, holding the Control Shift and hitting the I button, because instead of selecting the outside, we're going to now invert it and select the inside. So let's create another layer behind our black outline, and just go in and choose something. Maybe we'll just choose a gray of some sort, a light gray, and then hold Alt and backspace to fill them in. There we go. So now we have a base color for our character, and it already looks kind of good. So now the process of filling the character in could be done in a number of ways. We can even leave the character as is and just try and apply some nice shading effects to it. And the reason why I wanted to have this outline as well, so that I can duplicate it and later on go in and say, first of all, I would always hold down my Control key and select the layer so that I'm selecting what's inside of the texture or the layer fill, and just go into filters and do something very simple as noise, and add some noise to this, and we'll use some Gaussian, make it black and do it like this. And we could either like add a slight Gaussian blur just to give it a bit of a texture, and then there we go. We have already kind of a texture applied to the character, which kind of looks cool. Now we can make some adjustments to this simply by going in. Now these are all just extra things that I'm kind of showing you. We haven't even gotten into coloring it, but just so that you don't actually destroy the layer itself, I always like going into layer adjustments, and to play around with colors, I would always use my hue and saturation and use color, and then from here I could determine, well, what kind of color do I want them to be, and then I can just make adjustments, darken them up, lighten them up a little bit, things like that. So you can make an unlimited number of colors that you want. This was these gray. I'm just gonna lighten them up a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna leave him like that. It's just to give you an idea of some of the things you can apply to your layers. I'm just also going to put this in a folder so that I don't accidentally drag anything on top of my adjustment layers. Now, one of the things that I like to do in order to select certain parts of a character is by using my wand tool. Now, depending on how thick the lines are that you can play with, it should be able to work. So I play with the wand tool, and I also use the modify, which we can't see right now, but use the expand and contract method in the modifier. So I would open up my wand tool, and I would say select well, actually we're just going to select the arm as an example. No, I don't want that. Just select here. I'm just going to select some of the outside of the arm here, and we're going to color that in. And by holding down your shift key, you notice that you have a plus sign, so I can actually select multiple places. Now if you want to subtract it, it would be taking a little bit of time there, but it's the Alt key, and this is on PC, by the way. So now if I just went in and fill this in, I'm going to show you what's going to happen. So we'll just select a color. We'll use a nice blue, for example. And you always have to make sure that you don't do it on your black. You always have to make sure you select a new layer to add your fills. And by holding down the Alt and hitting backspace, we're filling it in. Now, it looks kind of good here, and in most cases, there would be an issue. Like here, we have an example where the fill didn't actually get it, and in some cases, it actually could be like this in a lot of areas. Like we have a place here that's didn't get really filled in. So to kind of avoid this, we're going to use the modify tool, but we're just going to go back to our history, and where we just have it selected, and we go into the modify, and we're going to expand, and we're going to only expand, say, by no more than 2 pixels. Okay, and what that's going to do is, of course, expand our selection by 2 pixels. But the only problem is where we might run into an issue is here, for example. So we're going to undo that, and we're just going to go back to modify again, expand, and just use 1 for now. That should be enough to get away with not seeing things. Now we still might have an issue with this, which is fine. We'll fill it in. Worst case scenario, we're just going to come in with our brush tool and just fill those little spots in. No biggie. Alright, it'll be all taken care of. So now what I like to do is I like to make sure that I don't select all of the parts. I like to play around with maybe sometimes I separate each section of a character separately, or sometimes I'll do it like this, and only because I want to later apply some effects. And if I have the whole character filled in, like for example this layer or even this layer, then it's going to affect the entire fill, and I want only to affect some parts of it. So for example, if I wanted to add an inner shadow, I can easily do it to just this side and up the size a little bit, make the distance somewhat so, and you know, you can play around with it to get the perfect effect that you want, and we'll just leave it like that. So we're just going to go in and we'll just do the other side as well. And let's see, for that we also need to select him, go into modify, expand by 1. We go back here, create another layer, and we'll fill him in. Now if you want, you can just right click on this and copy layer style and just paste that in, and as you can see, we can start slowly filling in the character. So I could go through the whole entire step here, but this is just basically how you would go about doing character design and coloring it into Photoshop. It's just a few simple tools that you need to know about. We'll just go over it quickly, about using your channels to select the black. From there, you create a path, a work path, and selecting the value or parameters that would suit the overall effect of the path when it's selecting the black. And then from there, you just basically are going in and creating from your outline, which is here, sorry, and from here just using your select tool and the expand modifier for the selection, and going in and selecting certain parts of your character so that you can actually have some cool coloring. Now I'm not going to go into colorizing this whole thing in front of you, but I will post the final image of it onto the website and have it at the end of this video, just to give you an idea of the outcome of the design. I hope you liked the video, and I hope that it was a little bit intuitive. Now this way of colorizing or doing character design using Photoshop is something that's very known on the internet, and it depends. Like this technique I've used over and over and over because it seemed to be one of the best and easiest, quickest ways to take your drawing sketches and make them like this. Now I'm gonna later do a few more tutorials where we're not going to just use a hard edges outline of the black. We're going to actually look at something more along the lines of a sketch, where we use the pencil drawing, shading, and whatnot to do some other kind of cool effect, overlay to our character, but pretty much do the same thing that we're doing here. Now if you have any questions, by all means give me a comment or contact me through my website at studioparsons.com. And if you have any questions on how to do more of this stuff, well, I'd be more than glad to help you out and do more videos, and more videos will come. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to my channel, just so that you will be connected with me with more tutorials that are going to be coming out. I don't only do character drawing and design, I also do 3D modeling and animation, level design, GUI design, etc. So expect a lot of cool things coming out in the weeks, months, and years And I thank you for watching, and come back again to see some more cool tutorials using Photoshop. Bye bye.